Welcome to Employee Module Number 3, Domestic Violence Awareness for Employees. In this course, we will learn three main objectives: understanding the cycle of domestic violence, recognizing how domestic violence can impact the workplace, creating a culture of resources in the workplace for domestic violence. In this training, we need to understand a few things first. That is, while it is true that most victims of domestic violence are women, not all are, and not all offenders are male. In this class, we will use the offender and victim as names to denote the participants of domestic violence, but those terms can refer to either sex. History has shown that domestic violence can lead into the workplace. Whether it is a coworker who is the target, or a patron, patient, or student, we must be aware that domestic violence is not an isolated incident and can easily be brought into the workplace by the offender. When a relationship is problematic, the victim may be able to find temporary respite from the relationship at school or work. They also could be followed into stores or places of business by the offender who intends on controlling them or doing them harm. This is why we want you to be aware of the understanding of the cycle of domestic violence, so we can all be mindful and helpful of the victims in a domestic violence relationship. Incidents of domestic abuse have shown to be a cycle or pattern between the offender and the victim. The cycle is displayed in this graphic and shows the four distinct stages. The first stage is tension building. Tensions can build from a single stressor or a combination of them. They can range from personality differences and differences of opinion to stresses in life from jobs and kids to issues of addiction or mental illness. During tension building phase, the victim will often try to ease the situation by placating the offender. This cycle usually repeats itself in ongoing domestic abuse situations, so the victim may sense that the tensions are building and may try to alter their own actions and behaviors as not to upset the offender. This could include changing the way they normally dress, talk, or behave. They may stop doing things they enjoy or stop associating with friends and family. Their work habits may change, as well as they may seem withdrawn, stop participating in team or social work events, or you may see their productivity decrease. It is during this time that the concern of the pending incident that could lead to domestic violence against them is consuming their thoughts. When tensions start to boil over and reach a breaking point, that is usually the time of the incident, which is the act of abuse. The incident can range from a variety of abuse that could include physical, emotional, sexual, or verbal. These forms of abuse are about control over the victim. The offender knows that the abuse will gain control and power over the victim. Not all abuse can be easily seen by loved ones and coworkers. Abuse can be verbal and emotional, in which the offender belittles their victim and decreases their self-esteem. Sexual and physical abuse can lead to serious physical injury that the victim may try to hide or explain away. The next stage is reconciliation. During this stage, the offender will try to mitigate their actions through a variety of excuses and techniques meant to deflect the abuse away from themselves. They may blame the victim or others for their own actions. They will often apologize and make promises of change. It is during this time that the offender is seeking a form of forgiveness for their actions that may lure the victim into thinking this could be an isolated incident or it is not as serious as first thought. This is another example of using power and manipulation over the victim by the offender, often seeking another chance to make things right. The final stage is that of calm, or sometimes called the honeymoon phase. The offender will want the victim to forget about their actions and continue to promise hope of change for the better. The calm stage will vary by relationship. Sometimes the calm stage will last only a few hours, or it could be months or even years. It is important to note that no matter how long this stage lasts, the real issue of the offender's manipulation and control is typically not being addressed through professional intervention and true change. It is therefore critical to understand that the cycle of abuse is likely to start all over again. Some of you might wonder why anyone would want to remain in an abusive relationship, but the truth is, nobody wants to stay in a relationship that is centered around abuse. There are many barriers for victims of domestic violence to leave their offenders or seek change. Those reasons include beliefs about marriage, belief the offender will eventually find them, lack of options or resources, fear of being hurt or killed, economic dependence, fear for safety, isolation, low self esteem, or general beliefs about family. The offender often uses these barriers and reasons to manipulate and control the victim. The power and control wheel shows us how this is done. When the offender feels they are losing control, their behaviors and level of violence may increase, leading to stronger episodes of emotional abuse, physical violence, stalking, using a weapon on their victim, or harming associates or coworkers of their victims. Victims may be able to leave their home and try to escape their offender temporarily or even permanently, but the offender knows that the victim may ultimately need to show up to work, attend school, or carry on with their lives, only have the offender track them down into your place of work. In our next segment, we will take a closer look at how domestic violence can impact your workplace. Now that we know why victims are caught in a dangerous cycle of violence, it is important for us to recognize how a domestic relationship can come into and impact our workplace. To do this, let's break the victims down into two simple categories: employees and visitors. Employees are obviously those people you work alongside with on a daily basis. Domestic abuse can impact your fellow employees directly and indirectly. As we have already learned, the offender can become so controlling that they may show up to work to check on the victim, to intimidate them, or even to harm them. This will be a direct manner of impact that the victim suffers while at work. An indirect manner would be ways in which the offender targets and controls the victim to the point it interferes with the employee's work habits and productivity. Watch for signs that hint at a relationship is harmful or potentially harmful for the coworker. Those signs would include frequent calls, text, and emails from the spouse or partner to make sure the coworker is indeed at work. Statements by the coworker that their spouse has a bad temper, is easily upset, or they don't want to make them mad. Any statements that suggest a drinking or drug problem by the partner or spouse. Increased anxiety or worry by the coworker when discussions about their spouse or partner come about, or as it gets closer to the end of their day. There are also other signs to watch for that may suggest someone is being or has been physically abused. These signs include obvious bruising, cuts, bite marks, strangulation marks, soreness, or complaint of injury with reluctance to explain why, excessive makeup or clothing to potentially cover up areas of physical abuse, and any statements of abuse. Employees who are victims of domestic violence need people they can trust in order to find the resources to get help. While we may all want to help that coworker escape the domestic violence relationship, realize that we may have our own limited resources and knowledge to do so. The best thing that we can do for that person is talk with them. Let them know you will help them find those resources and get them to the professional resources and advocacy groups for their safety. Trying to take a victim of domestic violence into your home to shelter them may make you and your family a target for the offender. Remember, depending on the control and intentions of the offender, they may escalate their level of violence to other people. While it is only natural to want to help, it is best to guide and assure the victim that their best option for help is through professional services and even law enforcement. The offender may very well show up to work to continue their expression of control and even violence. While it may be uncomfortable to speak up and get involved, it is much better than the alternative to allow the victim to be in fear or even having an episode of violence come into the workplace. Visitors to your workplace may easily be tracked or followed by their offenders. They may be there for classes, appointments, services, or even shopping. They may even be accompanied by their offender at the time. Sometimes visitors will display an outward sign they may need help by motions or suggestions that they are in fear and need assistance getting away from their offender. Again, watch for signs of physical injury, anxiety, or being highly uncomfortable next to the suspected offender. If you have the option to lure the victim away from the offender, ask them if they need help or if they're okay. If you suspect the visitor is not okay, call the police. Domestics can be brought into your place of work by both male and female offenders very suddenly. Bars, restaurants, shopping areas, and healthcare facilities are more prone for domestic violence incidents occurring, but they can occur anywhere and at any time. If a domestic situation breaks out, even if it is just loud arguing, here are some important things to do. Call the police immediately. Don't take sides or get involved verbally. Remove other patrons and coworkers from the area. Get out of the danger zone yourself. Do not try to shelter or protect the victim unless their life is in danger or you are properly trained for physical altercations. Be a good witness. As soon as possible, contact your management team and let them know what happened. And lastly, calm yourself and others. If you follow these tips, you will most likely be safe. You may be asked to write a statement about what you saw or heard by the police or your management team. Remember that your statement can be a vital tool to allowing the victim to get the help they need and escaping the cycle of violence. There are also laws in every state that protect victims and witnesses of crimes against any form of retaliation by the offender. The investigating officer will most likely inform you of this, as well as giving you your own resources should you feel threatened from any form of retaliation. You should talk with your management team after the incident about a review of policies, security measures, personnel, and basically what went right and what could be improved should a domestic incident occur at your work. Talking about what happened to the right people can be very therapeutic, but also can help create changes in security protocols to assure better safety for the future. Creating a culture of resources for domestic violence does many things in a workplace. It assures that domestic violence incidents will be taken seriously with police intervention should they come into the workplace. It gives employees options to know what resources are available if they suspect a fellow employee needs help. It provides victims themselves an opportunity of safe and confidential resources they can seek for help. All of these things combined mean a safer and healthier work environment. While nobody wants to pry into another's relationship, recognizing and reacting to signs of domestic violence can be the first act needed to help a victim to a better life. It may also be a critical step to help secure your own safety and that of your coworkers by preventing the cycle of violence ever coming into the workplace. This training is not intended for coworkers to become suspicious, but rather knowledgeable, aware, and caring. Resources for domestic violence victims can range greatly. Should you or any victim be of an imminent danger or threat of a domestic offender, call 911. The police are trained to first protect victims and then to provide victim resources in domestic situations. If there is no immediate danger, there are many free resources to aid victims of domestic violence. In Wisconsin, each county has trained staff through the county human services offices that can provide immediate consultation to victims. Many county agencies partner with nonprofit advocacy groups who can also provide victims housing, food, medical assistance, legal assistance, and counseling services. There is also a hotline for victims of domestic violence that is available day and night. That number is 1-800-799-7233. Your employer may also provide free services through your EAP program that is not only a great option, but also a demonstration of your employer's concern for you. All of these services are generally free and confidential. By taking this training, your employer is showing that they want you to know about these resources and care about your safety at work and beyond. Your human resources or management team can also post brochures and flyers with local numbers of domestic violence resources in the break rooms, in your policy handbook, restrooms, or delivered electronically. Whether you know someone who may be a victim of domestic violence or you are a victim yourself, know that there are people ready and willing to help you escape the cycle of domestic violence. Nobody wants to live in a relationship based upon fear and control, and nobody should. By working together and being mindful to the resources available to victims, we can all take a stand against the cycle of domestic violence.